Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you a bunch of books that I loved that are super great to read for English class if you get to choose your book, or even if you don't. Some of them fit into different categories, and this isn't usually the kind of video I make, but I still wanted to make this because I feel like it's going to be helpful to a lot of people. And I always like to look up books to read when I have to read them, and research and find out which one I'm gonna like the best. And you know, you're already on YouTube, so you might as well do something productive. Plus, a lot of us are addicted to TikTok now, so we don't really have time to read, and so I'm narrowing down some good ones for you here. So here you go, you're welcome. Okay, the first one that I'm gonna talk about, this one's like kind of a self-help book, and it's Lily Singh's book. The chapters in this book are super short. They're a couple pages. If you end up buying the book, they're like really nice matte pages, and it's super like colorful inside and everything. There's words that are bolded, and there's even like little lines and stuff if you decide that you want to like participate with the chapters more. There's a lot of good information here, especially if you want to go into like the entertainment industry and just become more of like a positive and lively person. I think it has a lot of great advice for that. There's 50 chapters, and if you get the Target version, there's an extra chapter. I actually have 2 copies of this book because I love Lily Singh. I have the Target version and then a signed copy when it came out. Yeah, I definitely have my favorite chapters in here, and I've read this book about like 4 or 5 times, and I just think there's a lot of really good advice in here. So you're looking to improve yourself a little bit, then I would definitely recommend this book. The next 2 books are both by Jennifer Niven, I think is how you say her name, and this is All the Bright Places and Holding Up the Universe. They have sort of the same layout, I guess. They're both more like romances, and they go back and forth between 2 perspectives of a boy and a girl. All the Bright Places is a girl named Violet and a boy named Finch, and they meet on a bell tower of their school, while Finch, who's the guy, is fascinated by death and everything. And then Violet, she's the opposite, where she lives for the future and she's counting down the days till graduation, and they meet and they have to do a school project together. And this one's super cute, definitely something that will make you cry at the end. If you've read this, you know. Lots of emotions, very sweet though. I loved this one. This is one of my favorite books ever, and I've read a lot of books, not to brag or anything. The next one is Holding Up the Universe. This is about a guy named Jack who has prosopagnosia, I think is how you say it, which is where he can't recognize faces. Like, he'll know his brother because he has curly hair, but if you just looked at him, he couldn't recognize that it was his brother just from his face. And then there's the girl named Libby who is going back to school for the first time in a couple years since she lost a bunch of weight and everything. And they end up meeting, and they might have to do like a project or something together to get to know each other. I don't really remember, but this one's really good. And Jack, a kid with prosopagnosia, like none of his family knows or anything. He just figured it out from looking stuff up online, and he like emails this somebody at a college or something. And so it's super interesting to like learn about that and different perspectives and just their story together. Oh, next, getting into more of like alien sci-fi kind of category is I'm Number 4. This series has been going on for a long time. The first book was written in 2010, and there's like 10 books in this series if you decide to read it all the way through. There's a movie of this book, but it is not very good, honestly. So I would not really recommend watching that. Like, you can kind of grasp the story, but it's just a lot better in the book. This one is about a group of 9 kids who are from a planet called Lorien, and they each have like an adult protector, like guardian, that they're with. And then there's these other alien monster things that look more like people. Like, they wouldn't be strange to just see around, I guess. Well, they would be, but like they fit in enough. Called Mogadorians that hunt them down, but all the kids have like their numbers. So the main character is number 4. That's why it's called I'm Number 4. But you couldn't have guessed. And so they have to hunt them down in order. So this starts out where 1 through 3 are dead, and so he knows that he's next, and they get like little scars on their ankles so they know how many have died. And so he goes out and they find all the rest of the other 9, or the other 6, and figure out what to do, and then traveling around, having to switch their names, create license plates, cars, all that stuff. And this one's super good too, and it's like all over the world, and so you kind of maybe can understand some geography, I guess. But this one's super interesting if you're looking for a solid series to read for a while. And they also have these on audiobook a lot of times. A lot of these you can get on audiobook. I don't really read books, I listen to them. That's why I end up reading more than other people, is because I listen to audiobooks. If you're looking to listen to audiobooks, I would recommend downloading Overdrive, because you just have to have a library card and then you have access to a whole library of audiobooks. I would also download Hoopla. They have a decent selection. They also have like movies and TV shows and stuff that you can download. A lot of the books I found are more older, like they don't have a lot of new stuff, but it's still worth checking out. Somewhere to listen to audiobooks, because Audible is kind of expensive because they make you buy all the books, which is why I don't use Audible, because I'm not rich and don't really care to buy a lot of books. I love having the physical copies, but I don't really care about having an audio library. The next one is Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, and this is about a kid named Greg. And Greg, you know, goes to high school and is very like, I don't want to have too many friends, I don't want to get too close to anybody, because then I'm not gonna get any fights, or you know, that I won't make anybody mad. But then this girl that his mom knows gets cancer, and his mom goes and makes him go talk to her and be friends with her, and they become pretty good friends. And it's pretty short. This one's only like 260 pages or so. The next one is even shorter. This one's called Stargirl. This is probably more of something that a middle schooler or like 5th grader would read. It's still a really cute story. There's less than 200 pages in it if you really need something short. It's about this girl named Stargirl, and she has a pet rat named Cinnamon, and she comes to this new high school and she meets this guy named Leo, and she's just kind of strange. Like, she'll say the Pledge of Allegiance about being burritos instead of the USA, and just different like quirky things, I guess. And she'll go around and sing people happy birthday in the middle of the cafeteria when it's their birthday and nobody else will. So this one's super cute too, and super short. Next, this one is They Both Die at the End, and my friend Molly gave this book to me, so shout out Molly. This one is about a world where the day you're gonna die, a company called Deathcast calls you and tells you, hey, today's your last day, and they might call you at 9 a.m. or 10 p.m. like it could be any time throughout the day. So people are like kind of constantly living in fear. And so it's about 2 boys named Mateo and Rufus, and they both get the call on the same day, and so they get online and try to find somebody else to spend the day with that's gonna die on the same day, or like something to do. And they, well, you can see they end up in love. So the whole book takes place in one day, and it's just about like living each day to the fullest, and so there's good lessons in here. And yeah, Lauren Oliver has a little thing on the cover of this, and if you don't know who Lauren Oliver is, she wrote Before I Fall and another series called Delirium. So Before I Fall this one's a movie, and they actually did a really good job with this movie. I was very impressed. Before I Fall is about a girl that also dies, and she has to relive that day a couple, I think like 8 times maybe, until she figures out what she did wrong and how to fix it. This one's super interesting. I remember reading this one in only like a couple days because I was so attached to it. This was another one that I read in a couple days because it was really good too. This is sort of a murder mystery. It's called One of Us is Lying by Katherine McGee. And basically 4 or 5 kids, it's about, and they all get detention on the same day for various reasons, and then one kid ends up dying in detention, and so they're all involved in this like police report and trying to figure out who did it, and none of them know who did it. And a second book to this just came out and I haven't read it yet. Next, The Sun Is Also a Star. They are also making this one into a movie. I've seen like a billion trailers for it already. It's basically about a guy named Daniel who is like a super good student and everything, and then a girl named Natasha who like is very sciencey and doesn't believe in fate or anything, and then they meet in like a music store, I believe, or somewhere. They run into each other and Daniel's like, I bet I can make you fall in love with me in one day, and Natasha is getting deported back to Jamaica at the end of the day, so again they only have one day. And she doesn't think that he can make her fall in love with him, but I was not happy with the ending of this originally, but then there's an epilogue that kind of sums it all up and makes it a lot better. So if you read this, read the epilogue, or else you're gonna be like, that was stupid. No offense. Next, if you're looking for something more of like a biography, I would recommend Jenna Fischer's The Actor's Life Survival Guide. Jenna Fischer played Pam in The Office, and she has a new show called Splitting Up Together right now that she's on with Oliver Hudson. There's a foreword by Steve Carell in here, which is Michael from The Office, so if you're unique like me and like The Office, then you can get excited about that. And a lot of this, she talks about her own life, but she also talks about the acting industry in Hollywood and how difficult it is to get in and getting auditions. So if you're into acting, it's super interesting. Personally, I just thought it was interesting anyways to see like how that industry worked. There's a lot of questions that she answers about starting out in Hollywood and acting school thing, and it's super interesting, I thought, and I'm not even like really into acting. Next, this selection. This one's also very popular and a lot of people have read it. It's kind of like The Bachelorette and The Hunger Games. Basically, there's like a couple different provinces. It's like a monarchy, and so from every like province, a girl or two gets picked to go to the castle and meet the prince to be his wife, and they kind of like goes through different rounds and like will eliminate girls and that kind of thing. And the main character, whose name is America, it's in like a futuristic country, so her name's America, and she gets picked and she doesn't want to be there, and so she tries to like talk to the prince, be like, I'll be your friend, like I'll help you out, but I don't want to be here. I just want the money for my family from being here. And then there's 3 more books, and you probably can understand or just read it for yourself to find out what happened. Another one of my favorite series is The 1000th Floor by Katherine McGee. There's a character in this named Eris, which is what I named my dog after because I love this series so much. This is the rest of the series. They all have towers on the front, but this black one here is the first book. Basically, it's about 5 teenagers in a futuristic Manhattan, New York in 2118, so 100 years into the future, and there is a tower that is 1,000 stories tall that this girl Avery Fuller's dad built, and they live on the 1000th floor because they're rich and everything. And Avery's like genetically designed to be perfect, so everybody like thinks she's super pretty and she's just perfect. And so she's one of the main characters, and then there's a couple other ones. There's her best friend Lita, who has a drug addiction. There's Eris, who is a beautiful carefree life falls into pieces with a heartbreaking betrayal that tears her family apart. And then there's Rylan, who lives on more like the bottom floor, like the 30th floor, which is considered like kind of poor, and she gets a job for like one of the upper floor kids, and they kind of get into a romance. And then Watt is a super genius, and he has a quantum computer, which is like a super powerful computer embedded in his brain, so he has to be careful about like what he says and what he does so the police don't find out. Yeah, just very like dramatic and romantic. The end of this book caught me like so off guard. Same with the rest of the series, the end will catch you off guard. Big plot twist, like I was not expecting the end. The final book I'm going to be talking about, this one I read for English last year because we had to read like a war type book, and I've went on a trip to visit Hopi and Navajo, so I knew I kind of wanted something with the Navajo code talkers, and I found this book, and this is the only memoir of a code talker that is available because a lot of them aren't alive anymore, and the guy that this is about isn't alive anymore either. He died a couple years ago. But there's like a bunch of the code in the back because it's like released now. The other thing I liked about this book is that it's pretty easy to read. There's a lot of history books that use more like language from like, you know, years and years ago, so they're kind of harder to read. But this one isn't, and it goes through his whole experience of being at the Navajo reservation and then getting asked to go be in the war and coming up with the code because he was one of the original Navajo code talkers, and just how growing up Navajo, they weren't really allowed to speak their language at the school they went to. Like, they'd get punished, and they wanted them all to speak English and don't speak Navajo. And then when he gets older and we get into World War II, then the government's like, speak Navajo now, like, because we need it for the code and that kind of thing. I don't know, it kind of goes into detail about how the US government's like not been super kind to the Navajo people, but they still went and helped them out in World War II, and just their culture and that kind of thing. And it's super cool to learn about, and not many people really get to learn about this in school. I think it's important, and I know other people that think it's important too, but they don't really go a lot of depth into this in history classes and stuff. So I definitely recommend this book if you are interested in World War II and codes and that kind of thing. So those are all my book recommendations. I really hope that helped you out for this school year, to help you find a book that you're actually gonna enjoy reading. If you have other book recommendations, comment them down below so other people can see them and maybe get more ideas. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel. I make videos at least once a week, sometimes twice. So like this video, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!